Ladies and gentlemen, I am Lady Lilith, and welcome to Eerie Embers. Yorkshire's history can be traced back to the shadowy mists of time, around 8000 BC. Over millennia, this ancient land has witnessed the rise and fall of Celtic Britons, Romans, and Vikings, each leaving behind whispers of their existence. Such a deep and tumultuous history weaves a rich tapestry ripe for ghostly apparitions, chilling hauntings, and macabre tales. One such spine-tingling story emerges from the heart of York, North Yorkshire, in England, at the Treasurer's House. This Grade 1 listed historic house, shrouded in legend and mystery, is renowned as one of the UK's 10 most haunted locations. The air around the house is thick with an unsettling presence, as if the walls themselves are alive with the memories of the past. The house, now under the care of the National Trust, stands like a sentinel in Minster Yard, directly to the north of the imposing York Minster. As you step into the gardens, also meticulously maintained by the Trust, the chill seems to creep into your bones. The atmosphere is heavy, pregnant with the echoes of centuries long gone. Visitors and caretakers alike have reported eerie encounters. The spectral Roman soldiers who march through the cellar, the faint whispers that brush past your ear when no one is there, and the sudden drops in temperature that make the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. The Treasurer's House is not just a relic of the past. It is a portal to the otherworldly, where the boundary between the living and the dead blurs, and the unseen inhabitants make their presence known in the most unsettling of ways. The first treasurer of York Minster was appointed in the year 1091, a time when the air was thick with the scent of wood smoke and the clatter of horse hooves echoed through the cobbled streets. Archbishop of York, Thomas of Bayeux, established the office, setting in motion a legacy shrouded in both grandeur and spectral whispers. Today, all that remains of the original residence is an ancient external wall, which now forms part of Gray's Court and enigmatic sections of the 12th century masonry within the present Treasurer's House. These stones, weathered and worn, whisper secrets of a bygone era, though it is uncertain whether they rest in their original positions or have been cunningly repurposed over the centuries. The Treasurer, as the controller of the Minster's finances, required a residence of imposing elegance, a place where the flickering candlelight could cast long, eerie shadows upon the faces of important guests. This grand residence was not only a home, but a stage for power and influence, where the veil between the present and the past seems perilously thin. Imagine, if you will, the dimly lit halls filled with the soft murmur of voices, the clinking of goblets, and the rustle of fine garments. Yet beneath this veneer of opulence, there is an undeniable undercurrent of something darker. The walls, steeped in history, seem to pulse with life, as if remembering the footsteps of those long gone. Each creak of the floorboards, each sigh of the wind through the ancient windows, hints at the presence of unseen observers. The grand residence of the Treasurer's House served its original purpose until the year 1947, when the reformation of the English Church cast a long, dark shadow over its halls. The role of treasurer was abolished, and on the fateful day, 26th of May, the last treasurer surrendered the house to the Crown. The residence was granted to Protector Somerset, who in turn sold it to the Archbishop Robert Holgate. It was during the tenure of Thomas Young, Archbishop from 1561 to 1568, and his descendants, that the house began to take on the form we see today. The early 17th century saw the Young family weave their legacy into the fabric of the house, adding the symmetrical front that now greets visitors with a foreboding sense of balance, and almost entirely rebuilding the structure. In 1617, the house's storied walls witnessed an event of great significance when Sir George Young played host to King James I. One can almost hear the ghostly echoes of royal footsteps and the whispers of hushed conversations lingering in the corridors. Over the ensuing years, the treasurer's house passed through the hands of numerous private owners, including the notable Lord Fairfax. The once unified residence eventually succumbed to the passage of time and was subdivided into separate apartments, each with its own share of spectral tales and eerie happenings. Imagine the house during this tumultuous period, the grand rooms, now sectioned off, each corner holding its own secrets, thick with memories of past opulence and the lingering presence of its inhabitants. The walls, which have seen centuries of history, seem to murmur the names of those who have walked its halls, while shadows flicker in the corner, hinting at the spectral visitors who have never truly left. The house was restored to its present state by Frank Green, a wealthy local industrialist with a penchant for preserving the past. Between 1897 and 1898, Green meticulously acquired each fragment of the house, piecing it back together like a giant haunted jigsaw puzzle. He enlisted the talents of Temple Moore, an architect with a flair for historical restoration, to strip away the numerous ill-fitting additions made over the centuries and reveal the house's original grandeur. By 1900, the restoration was largely complete, just in time for a visit from the Prince Albert Edward, Princess Alexandria of Denmark, and Princess Victoria in June of that year. One can only imagine the whispers of admiration mingling within the ghostly murmurs of the house's past residents as royalty walked its restored halls. When Frank Green retired and left York in 1930, he bequeathed the house and its contents to the National Trust. This act was unprecedented, marking the first time that both the private home and all its original furnishings were entrusted to the care of the Trust. The house, now preserved in all its restored splendour, stands as a testament to the Greens' dedication to history. This grand, historic residence, now under the guardianship of the National Trust, continues to captivate visitors with its blend of restored beauty and haunted legacy. Each room holds a piece of the past, inviting those who enter to step back in time and experience the haunting echoes of the lives once lived within its walls. Our journey into the spectral history of the treasurer's house begins not in Yorkshire, but in the ancient Roman city of Eboracum, circa 17 AD. This site, steeped in a millennia of history, stands on one of the primary Roman roads, Via Decumana, which once led north from the formidable fort of Eboracum. The treasurer's house was constructed directly over this main Roman thoroughfare, a path trodden by countless Roman soldiers and citizens. As the centuries passed and the layers of history accumulated, the Roman roots of the site lay hidden beneath the surface, awaiting rediscovery. It was during the major structural changes initiated by Frank Green in the late 19th century that the house's Roman legacy was dramatically unearthed. Amidst the restoration, workers uncovered 4 Roman column bases, remnants of the ancient world that had long been buried. One of these column bases remains in situ in the cellar, a silent sentinel of the past. Imagine descending into the cellar, the air growing cooler and more oppressive with each step. The flickering light casts long shadows, and there, half buried in the earth, lies an ancient column base. Its presence is a tangible connection to the past, a relic that has witnessed nearly 2 millennia of history. The stones, worn and weathered, seem to pulse with the energy of countless lives that once passed over them. Several ghosts are said to haunt the hallowed halls of the treasurer's house, their spectral presence weaving an eerie tapestry through the storied history. Among them is George Aislabie, a 17th century owner of the property, whose restless spirit is rumoured to still roam the rooms and corridors he once called home. His ghostly figure is often glimpsed in the shadows, a melancholic reminder of his enduring connection to the house. However, the most renowned and spine-chilling haunting is that of a group of Roman soldiers. These spectral legionnaires have been witnessed in the cellar on multiple occasions, their ghostly forms marching in silent procession along the ancient Roman road that lies beneath the house. The first recorded sighting occurred during the lavish party hosted by Frank Green, when a startled guest claimed to see the soldiers. Years later, during restoration works carried out by the National Trust, their eerie presence was confirmed once more. In the early 1950s, a young apprentice plumber named Harry Martindale was working in the basement of the treasurer's house, a stone's throw from the majestic York Minster. The day had been long, and Harry was nearly finished with his task of repairing a boiler. As he was about to pack away his tools, a faint sound reached his ears, the distant, haunting notes of a trumpet. He initially dismissed it, thinking it must be a brass band playing somewhere in the streets above. Moments later, a second trumpet blast echoed through the basement, this time louder and unmistakably closer. The sound seemed to emulate from the far end of the cellar, its eerie notes reverberating off the ancient stone walls. Harry, now curious and slightly uneasy, peered into the dimly lit, cavernous surroundings, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. He shook his head, attributing the noise to the acoustics of the old building, and turned back to his work. As he resumed packing his tools, a sudden, unshakable dread seized him. His heart pounded in his chest, and a cold sweat broke out on his brow. The dim light seemed to flicker ominously, and the air grew thick and oppressive. Summoning his courage, Harry looked again towards the source of the trumpet blasts. Out of the shadows, a surreal and horrifying scene unfolded before his eyes. A horse's head suddenly appeared from out of the wall at the far end of the cellar. Its rider was then revealed, followed by 15 Roman soldiers. This column of Roman soldiers, spectral and otherworldly, emerged from the far end of the cellar. Their lower bodies appeared obscured by the floor, as if they were walking on a road buried deep beneath the cellar's current level. The soldiers, clad in plumed helmets and carrying round shields, moved with a purposeful, ghostly cadence, their faces devoid of emotion. The weary and dejected-looking soldiers paid no attention to Harry as they shuffled their way across the cellar floor, only to disappear into the opposite wall. Harry stood frozen, his mind struggling to comprehend the impossible sight before him. The soldiers, oblivious to his presence, continued their march through the cellar, the sound of the phantom trumpet guiding their spectral steps. This eerie procession seemed to last an eternity. Finally, the last of the ghostly legionnaires disappeared into the opposite wall, leaving Harry alone in the silence of the cellar. Harry sat trembling and hidden behind the boiler, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and disbelief. This procession of Roman soldiers, so vivid and terrifying, replayed in his mind like a grotesque tableau. He struggled to regain his composure, each breath coming in short, ragged gasps, as he tried to convince himself that what he had witnessed was not some elaborate trick of the mind. After what felt like an eternity, Harry managed to gather his scattered belongings. The once familiar tools seemed alien in his shaking hands as he hastily stuffed them into his bag. The oppressive atmosphere of the cellar, thick with the weight of centuries and spectral presence, felt almost tangible, urging him to flee. With a burst of adrenaline, Harry bolted towards the stairs, his footsteps echoing loudly in the silent basement. He scrambled up the stairs, each step a frantic escape from the ghostly horrors below. Bursting into the ground floor, he gulped the fresh air with an almost desperate relief, the sunlight striking him with the harsh clarity that seemed to chase away the shadows lingering in his mind. Outside, he stood in the open air, still breathless and disorientated. The bustling sounds of York and the warmth of the sun felt almost surreal after the cold dread of the cellar. Harry's mind raced as he tried to process the experience. The Roman soldiers, their spectral forms so strikingly real, seemed too vivid to have been a mere figment of his imagination. The encounter left him feeling both shaken and mystified. Unable to reconcile with the extraordinary vision with the ordinary reality of his day. Conflicted and unsure, Harry considered telling someone about his harrowing experience. However, the fear of being dismissed as mad, or worse, ridiculed, held him back. The ghostly procession was too incredible to be easily believed, and he was reluctant to expose himself to potential disbelief and mockery. Thus, Harry kept his ordeal largely to himself, the memory of these ghostly soldiers remaining a private terror. 2 decades had passed since Harry Martindale's harrowing encounter in the cellar of Treasurer's house, and the vivid memory of ghostly Roman soldiers had remained a closely guarded secret. Despite the passage of time, Harry had steadfastly maintained his silence, his account locked away as a solitary experience that seemed too extraordinary to share. Then, one fateful day, Harry came across a local newspaper article that made his heart race with a mix of shock and vindication. The article detailed 2 recent accounts from individuals who had experienced similar ghostly phenomena in the very same cellar. The eerie coincidences described phantom trumpet blasts, spectral soldiers, and other unsettling occurrences mirrored his own experience with chilling precision. The realization that he was not alone in this encounter, that others had witnessed the same supernatural manifestations, was both a relief and a catalyst for Harry. The newspaper article stirred something within him, a sense of validation and a compelling urge to share his own long-suppressed story. The ghostly legionnaires who had once haunted him now seemed to beckon for their tale to be told, their spectral procession demanding recognition alongside the new witness accounts. With a mixture of nervous anticipation and resolve, Harry decided that it was finally time to reveal what he had seen. The fear of ridicule, while still present, was overshadowed by the need to unburden himself of the story that had haunted him for years. He reached out to the local newspaper, his fingers trembling as he drafted his account. He described in vivid detail the spectral soldiers, the chilling trumpet blasts, and the paralyzing fear that had seized him in the depths of the cellar. He vividly described their appearance, noting that each soldier was clad in shabby, green kilted skirts, their fabric appearing roughly dyed, as if hastily prepared. These uniforms gave the soldiers an unsettling, almost otherworldly look, as if they had stepped out of a time long forgotten. The soldiers were armed with long spears and short swords, weaponry that suggested both a readiness for battle and a link to an earlier era of warfare. Their round shields, an unusual choice for Roman army, known for its rectangular shields, added to the strangeness of their appearance, hinting at a potential amalgamation of different martial traditions, or perhaps a blend of various historical influences. However, the most striking and disconcerting feature of these spectral figures was their incomplete ghostly forms. Harry recounted how all the soldiers appeared to be truncated at the knees, their lower legs vanishing into the stone floor as they were walking upon a road that had long been buried. This eerie phenomenon made the soldiers seem as though they were marching through the very essence of the past, their presence anchored into the ancient path beneath the modern cellar. When Harry's story was published, it was met with a mix of curiosity and intrigue. His account was corroborated by recent testimonies of other witnesses, weaving together a broader tapestry of a paranormal activity at the treasurer's house. The validation he sought, and the recognition of his own experience as part of a larger phenomenon, was both liberating and gratifying. At the same time that Harry Martindale's account began to stir public interest, a team of archaeologists embarked on an excavation project in the cellar of Treasurer's house. Their work aimed to uncover more about the ancient foundations and historical layers of this storied building. As they dug deeper into the cellar, their efforts revealed a remarkable find: an old Roman road, lying some 18 inches below the modern floor level. This discovery was both exciting and illuminating, providing a tangible link to the ancient past of the site. The significance of this find became apparent when the archaeologists examined the alignment and depth of the Roman road. It dawned on them that anyone walking along this ancient path would appear to be cut off at the knees when viewed from the modern floor level. The alignment of the road and the depth at which it lay perfectly matched the eerie description given by Harry Martindale. The archaeologists' findings not only provided a historical context for the haunting, but also lent to the eerie validation to Harry's account. The physical evidence of the Roman road confirmed that the ghostly apparitions were likely bound to this ancient path, their spectral forms forever entwined with the buried history beneath the modern cellar. By the time Harry Martindale's account was revisited, with renewed interest, he had transitioned into the role as a police officer, earning a reputation as a reliable and upstanding individual. His integrity and no-nonsense demeanour lent considerable credibility to his previous experiences. As an officer, he was well regarded for his honesty, and his reputation played a significant role in how the ghostly encounter was perceived. When experts in Roman history approached him for an interview, Harry was candid about his limited knowledge of Roman history. He admitted that his understanding of ancient Rome was largely shaped by Hollywood epics, rather than any formal study or deep personal interest. Similarly, he revealed that he had no particular fascination with ghosts or the paranormal, making his encounter all the more intriguing given his lack of predisposition towards such matters. Despite his lack of expertise in Roman history and his indifference into the paranormal, Harry remained unwavering in his account of the events he had witnessed in the cellar. His description of the ghostly Roman soldiers was consistent and detailed. He stood by his testimony with the same conviction and sincerity that had earned him respect in his professional life. The experts, recognizing the strength of Harry's character and the alignment of his account with the recent archaeological findings, took his testimony seriously. The experts' deliberations on Harry Martindale's detailed account of the ghostly Roman soldiers led to some intriguing discoveries that lent further credence to his experience. After a thorough period of research, they uncovered significant historical details about the Roman military presence in York. It was revealed that towards the end of the Roman occupation of Britain, auxiliary forces were stationed in York. These auxiliary units were distinct from the mere familiar Roman legions, and they played a crucial role in the defence and the administration of the province. Notably, the auxiliaries had their own unique equipment and attire that differed from those of the standard legions. Among these differences was the type of clothing worn by the auxiliaries. Contrary to the common perception of Roman soldiers in standardized legionary armour, the auxiliary forces were known to wear green kilted skirts, a garment that aligned closely with Harry's description of the ghostly soldier's attire. This attire was less formal and more varied, reflecting on the diverse origins and functions of the auxiliary troops. Additionally, the auxiliary soldiers commonly carried round shields rather than the rectangular shields typically associated with Roman legions. This detail matched Harry's account of the spectral soldier's weaponry, further validating the authenticity of his description. The round shields used by the auxiliaries were not only functional, but also indicative of their distinct fighting styles and tactical roles. These findings provided an historical context that aligned remarkably well with Harry's account. One compelling theory suggests that these ghostly figures might have been mercenary forces attached to the Roman legions, who'd suffered a catastrophic defeat in the turmoil of late Roman Britain. The collapse of the Roman control in Britain, marked by invasions and internal strife, could have led to the disbandment or tragic end of these troops. If they had faced a disastrous defeat at the hands of the Picts or other adversaries during this period of upheaval, it is conceivable that their spirits might have been trapped in a state of unrest. forever bound to the scene of their final stand. Despite these theories, the true identity and fate of the ghostly soldiers remain shrouded in mystery. A combination of historical facts and supernatural elements presents a tantalising puzzle that may never be fully solved. The Treasurer's house, with its spectral residents and historical layers, continues to intrigue and haunt those who seem to understand its enigmatic past. The ghosts of the cellar, whether they are remnants of a mercenary force or something else entirely, remain a poignant and mysterious aspect of the house's storied history. The Treasurer's house, renowned for its spectral Roman soldiers, is far from devoid of other ghostly disturbances. The tales of the house are rich and varied, weaving together a history and the supernatural in a complex tapestry of eerie occurrences. One notable spectral figure linked to the house is Frank Green, former owner, who bequeathed the property and its contents to the National Trust. Green was meticulous about the arrangement of his furniture, going so far to install metal studs on the floor to mark precisely where each piece should be placed. His instructions were clear. Any deviation from his carefully curated arrangement would not be tolerated. In a somewhat macabre twist, Green even threatened to haunt the house if his meticulously arranged furniture was ever moved. True to his word, or perhaps to his ghostly threat, there have been reports of unexplained phenomena in the house, particularly when the furniture is moved for conservation work or renovation. Some visitors have noted a strange, smoky scent lingering in the rooms, a possible sign of Green's discontent with the disturbance of his well-ordered domain. These unexplained odours add a peculiar layer to the ongoing mysteries of the house, raising the question of whether they are indeed a sign of Mr. Green's lingering presence. Additionally, the Treasurer's house, which was eventually subdivided into apartments, harbours another dark tale linked to its previous occupants. In one of these apartments, particularly in the upstairs tapestry room, male visitors have reported being shoved by an invisible force. This unsettling experience is often accompanied by a foul smell that seems to follow the men around the room, adding to the discomfort of the encounter. The source of this malicious presence is believed to be of a woman who once resided in the apartments with her unfaithful husband. According to local law, she became so enraged by his infidelity that she murdered him. Her vengeful spirit, it is said, remains in the room, seeking to exact retribution on any male visitor who enters her domain. The combination of physical disturbances contributes towards the haunting atmosphere of the tapestry room, where the shadow of past wrongs seem to cast long and eerie shadows. The Treasurer's house is also home to a particularly intriguing spectral figure, one that appears to be visible only to children. In the period rooms of the Treasurer's house, staff have received numerous reports from parents and grandparents who have been alarmed by their children's reactions to an unseen presence. The children, often clambering into historic seats or interacting with the period furnishings, have consistently described encounters with a lady they claim to have seen. One notable apparition is a lady in black who reportedly appears behind children when they look into a mirror in a specific room. Her presence is described as sudden and disconcerting. Yet the children who seem entirely unfazed, often respond with a calm assurance. They might say things like, "It's okay. The lady told me I could." A statement that leaves adults puzzled and concerned. In addition to the lady in black, another ghostly figure has been reported as a woman in grey. This spectral woman is said to be spotted sitting in one of the rooms, her presence noted by children who describe her in detail, but whose reports are not corroborated by adults. What is particularly striking about these encounters is that while children consistently report seeing these figures, adults never do. This phenomenon raises intriguing questions about the nature of the spirits in Treasurer's house and their interactions with different age groups. In 2015, an American guest stayed at the Treasurer's house and left a particularly unsettling review on Trustpilot, which highlighted some of the eerie experiences associated with the property. The review, shared after his wife fell ill, provides a chilling account of their visit. Said to be the most haunted house in England, it really fit the bill. A strange and unsettling experience began the day before our scheduled tour. My wife, whilst merely peeking through a window, suddenly felt unwell. She was overcome with nausea and an inexplicable sense of unease. This initial disturbance was just the beginning, as she subsequently refused to join us for the house tour the following day. When I discussed her condition with the staff at the end of our visit, they revealed that such occurrences are not uncommon. In fact, it appears that people have often been so affected by the atmosphere inside that they have fled outside after spending only a few minutes within the house. Our brief encounter with the house was enough to leave a lasting impression, and it seems that the haunting reputation of the Treasurer's house is more than just folklore. The unsettling atmosphere and my wife's sudden illness added to the haunting authenticity to the claims of its spectral inhabitants. The Treasurer's house in York, North Yorkshire, offers an intriguing experience for visitors, blending historical grandeur with its storied supernatural reputation. Here's what you need to know about visiting. The house is open to the public for an admission fee. This fee helps support the preservation and maintenance of the historic property. Entry to the house is free for members of the National Trust, reflecting the Trust's commitment to providing its members with access to a range of historic sites. Additional features of the house: the beautiful garden and below-stairs cafe offering a selection of refreshments are open to the public free of charge. They provide a pleasant space to relax and enjoy the surrounding historic environment. Depending on the time of year and availability, visitors can take special tours of the cellar and attic areas. These tours offer a deeper insight into the house's history and architecture, as well as its reputed paranormal activity. Some tips for visiting. Check your tour availability. If you are interested in cellar and attic tours, it is a good idea to check their availability in advance, as these tours may be seasonal or subject to scheduling. Don't miss the opportunity to wander through the garden, which provides a serene setting and beautiful views of the house. And the below-stairs cafe is a great spot to relax and reflect on your visit, whether you have explored the main house or just enjoyed the garden. With its rich history, beautiful gardens, and intriguing ghost stories, the Treasurer's house offers a unique and immersive experience for history and paranormal enthusiasts alike. treasurer's house has continued to attract the curious and the brave, drawn by its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the UK. Thank you for listening.